And it will be your idea, by the way.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great. If it ever happens one day, please remind us that it was your idea.
Oh, I will happily take some credit for that.
Mais qu'est-ce que t'as? T'as pas le comme tout? Tu vas pas nous faire une maladie maintenant?
Vous êtes enceinte, mademoiselle. Je suis désolé.
C'est pas possible.
This film is so incredibly touching and well rendered. Following my viewing, I still have a lot living with me. Like, it's causing me to observe my surroundings more deeply, investigate issues that may not exist that exist beyond my region. So, although being from Texas, this story is unfortunately very relevant. So first, because of what's explored here and how intimate and immersive the experience is to illustrate its themes, can I ask, are you both okay?
Thank you. Yes, we are.
No, we're so happy to be here and to be able to show the movie here. While making it, I would have never thought it would be accurate in the United States. So,
yeah.
And on my way here, I thought nothing was already decided regarding Roe versus Wade, and now I feel that it's done, and it changes our perspective, but also the reason why we're here. Mm-hmm. and the way we expect to discuss about that matter. Can I tell you something about something I really think is that we cannot make debate pro or against abortion unless we know what is illegal abortion.
Mm-hmm.
So as it is never exactly portrayed, the whole journey portrayed, I really try not to do nothing else, not to judge, not to tell people what to think, but just to portray the reality of that moment, which is always the same reality, even if we're not in the 60s anymore, regarding where we are.
Right. I really took to the women taking pause for understanding in this. There are several scenes with Anne's two primary friends that show this, but also one of the final moments with another who walks into Anne's room to ultimately see a very unshakable image. Yet through that, there's just so much beautiful understanding and support here. And that was a massive takeaway for me. So I'm genuinely curious about each of your responses to those moments of understanding among these women, and whether it wowed you from the original text or in shaping Anne for on screen.
I think that what I understand working on that adaptation is that in the book I can feel the fear everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's why I wanted to make this be a physical experience, would be like some kind of intimate thriller, because the law created some kind of a fear that makes everybody shaking, So mm-hmm. all the women around her, it's not that nobody wants to help her. It's just that everybody's scared. I mean, we're talking about young students that are the first generation being able to go and study. So, and it means that their family has made sacrifices to send them to university. So if they help their friend and they all end up in jail, this is some kind of a betrayal regarding to their family. Mm. And the doctors, if they help, then there might never be doctors anymore, So all I wanted to do is not to judge them, but try to understand them one after each other,
Plus, I think that all the, I think it's a society matter. For example, the character of Jean is the one that at first seemed to be the most cruel and the most mean person, because he has very much préjugés. Foresight ideas.
Right.
And then he makes his journey alongside Anne's journey, and at the end of the movie, he's the one that he helps her, and he shows them, much more humanity than the others, because he makes his journey and he finishes by understanding what she's going through.
How active were your meaningful conversations surrounding the narrative's themes on set? Because I just wonder how much you discuss the impact the material is having on you as you're exploring it, as it compares to what your experience may be now that the film is done and you're sharing it with the world and you're having conversations with people. What has the evolution been like for you personally?
Actually, it's strange, and I'm not sure this will happen another time in my life, but the movie is exactly what I expected it to be. Like, I had a very precise idea of what I wanted and what I expected. So what I wanted the movie to be, so this experience where we don't look at her, but we try to be her. And what I expected is that we would be able to do the journey, whereas we are men or women, young or old, and even pros and against abortion. And it happened through, we traveled a lot with the movie, and it happened that in the screening room, there were people who were against. But still, and this is my most important matter, we're still up to discussion. So we managed to talk and discuss. For instance, we discussed about the pain, the level of pain we do agree for a woman to experience in order to get this abortion when it's illegal. We also talk about freedom, because I never intended to make a movie about illegal abortion. I was driven by a character who was desperately trying to be free. So she talks about her sexual freedom, her sexual desire. She talks about her intellectual desire. She's from a working class and going first generation to study in a bourgeois university. And, and at the end, she even admits out loud that she wants to be a writer. So it's a general quest for freedom. And on that way, she has to go through an illegal abortion. So I expected people to see the movie and understand that we are actually talking about freedom for women.
Right. And I know the original source material had 2 timelines, and I completely agree with you, Audrey, from prior interviews that you've done about how you didn't want it to feel like an artifact, but a very present story set in the past. But is there a perspective you gain from the late 90s in the text that may have informed how you explored the past in your telling of it?
The only thing that is very strong in her, in the 90s, late 90s part, is that she really tries, and it's really Annie Ernaux's work, she really tries not to make any legend out of that story, not to make herself be a hero, but just a girl trying to survive. And she interrogates herself all the time on how right she is regarding to her memories. She's like keeping an eye on herself, not to make any mistakes, not to change anything regarding that moment, and how to really go back in her memories in the rightest way. So through that, I was thinking, okay, what must be my artistic gesture then? Because I can't go and be right about memories that are not mine. Of course, it's fiction. So I decided that I would try to settle the truth of the instant. What is it to go through that story minute after minute or so,
Anne-Marie, is there like anything within you that makes you wish that you can see this story continue? Because after my viewing of it, I wanted to see some of the, like, because in this particular story, she's so determined. And I wonder, like, once she's past that, like, what her life may be beyond that. Is there any wishful thinking that you would love to see a continuation of this?
Oh, do you mean if I would like to
Yes.
play Annie Ernaux again?
Number 2.
Well, do you want to make an Annie Ernaux number 2?
I always want to work on Annie Ernaux's text and with you. So, And maybe not now because we have to experience different things, but who knows, maybe a day. Yeah.
It will be very
It could happen, actually.
It could happen. It will be interesting.
And it will be your idea, by the way.
That's right. Yep.
That's great. If it ever happens one day, please remind us that it was your idea.
Oh, I will happily take some credit for that. But no, I just feel like this is such a beautiful story that it almost could. I don't know if you're familiar with the Richard Linklater's Before trilogy. So it's like that kind of continuation where like you have different life experiences as you go through, and I'm so invested in her story that I would just love to see like how she handles different things, and even motherhood as she wished that she could experience one day.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually.
It's actually a very good idea.
But I'll be old.
You'll be fine.
Okay, take that.
I know we're about to run out of time, so I'll cut you loose on this. Something that I love to pay attention to when there's a classroom lesson being taught in a film is to look for any poetic parallels between what's being discussed within the lesson and what the film ultimately becomes and teaches itself. And so the final lines about Victor Hugo, a famous French poet and novelist, the instructor says, Victor Hugo will show you the way. So I have to ask, like, what text or author showed you the way, so to speak? Like, what literature has filled you with purpose or opened up your creativity to where it is today?
Actually, those texts were not in the book. Those are my texts. Aragon, Victor Hugo, I asked Annie, whereas I should put the text who built her mind or mine. And she said, put yours. And it makes sense because at the end of that intellectual journey, my favorite writer is Annie Ernaux. So those writers were related to her work somehow for me. And she said, yes, please do. So of course, Aragon, I love Aragon's poetry because you think he talks about love, and in fact, he talks about war and all the hidden messages. So you can think it's just the story of this young girl, and in fact, it's a political war. So there were meanings to me in every text that I carefully picked. And those are the texts who built my mind.
Well, it was really well done. What about you, Anamaria? Is there anything that speaks to you?
I'm reading Sylvia Plath. I'm reading, I don't know what's the English title for it. But Sylvia Plath's bestseller. I mean, it's her only book, actually. She never read. She died after. Yeah. Sorry?
She killed herself with the bell jar.
Yeah. And but I think it's more a quote from Sybil Beckett that says something like, try and fail again and fail better. And I think that this is what kind of drives me in my life. And I learned to do that on set with Audrey and Happening.
I need to tell you something. Like, there was one sentence. I saw Parasite from Bong Joon-ho, and there is one sentence that kept in mind is that the father says to his son at some point, you know what plan always succeeds? The one that doesn't exist. And I was thinking, I actually do believe that's true. And in my life, early ages, I would have made plan all the time, and it never worked the way I intended to. And then it also worked with my way of directing. Like, if you already know exactly what you're going to do, if you've done a journey before you're doing the journey, then something is dead already in the way you create the movie. So that's the reason why we never rehearse the key scenes, because we have to be at risk. Let's start no planes. We have expectations, but no planes. And we'll see what is the way to go there and what we'll find doing that journey, Of course, I couldn't have imagined by then that the same Bong Joon-ho would give me the Golden Lion a few months later. And I was like, actually, it was right. Let's not make planes because that's always succeed,
Thank you so much for that answer. It was so beautiful, and I really hope you make that sequel, no matter when.
That's
But
quite perfect to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
yeah.